This week on Down the Right Field Line, find out our take on the Ozzie Guillen saga. All that and more coming up next. So one of the top news topics of the past couple of days has been the comments made by Ozzie Guillen. And a lot of people have commented and have told us that they want to really hear our perspective as Cuban Americans. Both of our parents were born in Cuba and came here when they were very young. So we kind of have a unique perspective on the situation. Each of us will give our perspective on it, and that way you can kind of get a full roundabout version of what went on. To kind of give you a sense of what happened, Ozzie Guillen had an interview with Time magazine, and they asked him what he thought about Fidel Castro. And you know, Ozzie Guillen is straight to your face. He'll tell you exactly what he feels, and without slanting in any direction, what he pretty much said was that he respects Fidel Castro because he's been able to last this long with thousands of people trying to kill him. So you take that first part out of perspective and you can see the reasoning behind this whole riot and this whole thing going on. Now Rafi, before I give my perspective, I want to see what do you think about this whole situation, about what he said, the reaction that was within the Cuban community there in Miami, and his apology.
Well, let's not forget also in the article the first words were, "I love Fidel Castro." I think you combine that statement and the fact that I respect Fidel Castro and blah 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 blah, that really got the Cuban community just going. And you know, we've talked about it before in other shows. We know what we're getting out of Ozzie. He speaks his mind. He puts his sense into stuff that he shouldn't be. Stuff that, who cares? He's a manager, you know. He has no, not that he has no business talking about it, but, you know, stick to what you know. So you just alarmed a fan base and have been persecuted by this man and have been, you know, in some cases tortured, jailed, anything that you can think of. You've had family members of theirs that have been killed by this man, and yet all they hear is, "I love Fidel Castro and I respect Fidel Castro." They don't really care about anything else that was said in that article. And so right off the bat, they want him gone. And you know, I believe that his apology was as sincere as it can be, but ultimately that Cuban community, the older Cuban community, will not forgive him. And quite frankly, I was talking about this with a friend of mine a few days ago. That group is in their 70s, 80 years old. If we lose them as fan base, fine, it's alright. You know, I mean, it's sad that it's gotten to this, because it's, you know, he was brought to Miami to expand the Latin community, the Hispanic community, and he's done quite the opposite. But ultimately, I think if you're a true fan and you can look past it, you should be fine. It'll blow over, and I think winning cures a lot.
Yeah, you know, when this whole news broke, I actually heard it for the first time on the Spanish channels down there in Miami. Before it broke on the internet and everything, it actually came out, and in big bold letters it said, "I love Fidel Castro." And when I saw that, I was like, you know, I was kind of worried, but at the same time, I know this guy's from Venezuela. I know that he says things both ways in politics. Sometimes he supports Hugo Chavez, sometimes he doesn't. So you know that something like this would make sense out of his mouth. But at the same time, you were kind of hoping it wouldn't get this publicized. You know, it got all over the papers. It got on the national news even that he was suspended because of this. And, you know, when this whole thing just started going all over the place and you started seeing the riots on the streets of Miami, you're like, wow, I didn't think it was ever going to get this bad. And, you know, he came out, he flew down all the way from Philadelphia, spoke in front of the press. And anybody who's anybody that knows Ozzie Guillen, he never apologized for anything. He says, those are the words I said, like or not, you know, that's what I said. He apologized about this. People, you have to gain perspective from that. A person that never apologized for anything he says, he's apologizing. And you saw the gloss cover on his eyes. He was really holding back. He hasn't been able to sleep. He's been having probably nightmares even when he can sleep. So, I mean, this guy is really sorrowful about what he did. And, you know, I feel a little bit of anger as a Cuban American as well that he said that. But at the same time, you're not asking this guy to be the president of the United States. He's going to be your manager as a ball club. You're leading a ball club. You're not leading a community. And the person's perspective is independent of anything else. The people of Cuba came here because they wanted to be able to have freedom. And that's exactly what Ozzie has. He has the freedom of speech. If that's his perspective and that's what he really thinks, let him think that way. I really respect that he apologized and everything, but at the same time, it doesn't matter. This is baseball. Anything that happens between the lines is what matters. Everything else is just haze, and it's all just, you know, it doesn't matter. Now, I don't think it's coincidence, though, that this happened this year when we have the franchise following us. When you have something that big following every single step you take, who knows? Maybe they saw that came out in the paper and they leaked it out to the press and wanted to get everybody riled up so they would have something to cover it. So I'm not trying to take a perspective of it's a conspiracy, but it's not a coincidence. Definitely not a coincidence. Now, after the apology happened, we started a Twitter account saying, "Forgive Ozzie," as you can see here. It got a huge following on Twitter. People, you started hearing perspectives from all different type of people. Emilio Bonifacio actually tweeted us showing support for Ozzie because of this Twitter account that we started. We're hoping to get a pretty good following so that we can show Ozzie that there are Marlins fans that support him and want him to get back into the dugout and lead this team to a world championship. So that's kind of just a perspective. Rafi, do you have anything else to add at the end of the
Yeah, I mean, you know, we say, yeah, Ozzie being Ozzie, but let's not forget that it doesn't excuse the fact that he said something that you do not say in Miami. That, I mean, you know, I understand, like I said, you know, we've moved on and things like that, but I just don't want people to get that I guess, mind frame that, well, that's Ozzie being Ozzie. It's all right. It's not a big deal. It kind of is a big deal, and I think he realized it, and I think he's owned up to it, and let's move on.
You know, one of the key things I thought from the interview, actually a few key things, he said, if I don't learn from this, the question was, do you think you're dumb? I don't know what kind of a question that was, but the guy said, do you think you're dumb? And Ozzie Guillen said, if I don't learn from this and everything, all the pain that it caused, then you can come to me and say you're dumb. But I don't think I'm dumb right now. And that was a pretty good answer to that question because, yeah, he messed up. But we mess up all the time too. And if he doesn't learn from this situation and all the uproar it caused, then you're just ignoring everybody. Another thing that he mentioned was today, which was the day of the apology. He said, today is the last time you will ever hear me talk about politics. And I'm so glad he said that, because he's caused a lot of controversy even in the past when he was with Chicago about his political views. And that's stuff that you don't need to hear about. Keep it to yourself and, you know, manage the ball club. You don't want, it just causes distraction, because maybe he believes that, but then Hanley Ramirez disagrees with it, and now you have a clash. You want to keep the ball club centralized around baseball, and everything else, keep it outside of the clubhouse, keep it outside of the media, and just focus on that.
Let me ask you, do you really feel like that's it? He's never going to mention anything, not do anything?
This is the first time I've ever seen him this resentful over anything he said. He has said a lot of controversial things. A lot. And I've never, ever seen him this resentful for it. And I really do think that this is one of those moments. Everybody has this moment in their life when they reach that point and said, look, I can't continue being the same way I've been my whole life. I'm going to have to hold back. And I really, even in the apology, you saw him thinking about things before he said it, because he thinks in Spanish and then he says it in English. So you really started seeing it, and maybe there'll be a few slip-ups here and there, but I think he's really going to catch himself. And, you know, it's a good thing that he does that. And down the road, which I do think the Marlins aren't going to fire him. I'll get your perspective here in a second, Raph. I don't think they're going to fire him, because they just signed him to a long contract, and he is the guy to lead this team. You've already seen his impact on the team, and I think it would be a big mistake to fire him, even with the uproar of Cubans. What do you think, Raph?
Yeah, definitely. I think it would just be sending the wrong message, actually. Ironically, it'd be sending the wrong message if you fire Ozzie Guillen now, or within a year, or before the contract, unless it has to do with on-field stuff and just poor performance on the field. Then no, there's no reason to fire him. There's no reason to ask him to resign. I mean, I'm really concerned with that Cuban community that it was just adamant and will not stop until this guy is gone. And I just hope it doesn't wear on Ozzie so much that he just won't be able to do it anymore. You know, and I'm sure the first day back that he's back managing after these 5 days, after these 5 games, you're going to hear a rain of boos when they first introduce him, I think. But that's it. After that, that's it. You got your point across once, and that's it.
So, like us at this link, forgive Ozzie, to kind of show Ozzie some support for the next couple of weeks, which are going to be pretty trying on him. We're hoping to get to 1,000 followers, and then we're going to show Ozzie, maybe we'll make a little something for him, and show him that the Marlins community is behind him. So the final thoughts, Rafi, for the next homestand. What do you think is the key for the Marlins in the next homestand?
The key for the Marlins homestand is to keep running. I want to see Reyes and Bonifacio run around the bases and just wreak havoc for those pitchers from the Astros and the Cubs, and just, you know, non-stop, and just also driving in runs with less than 2 outs. I think that's also key.
Yeah, for me the key for the next homestand is going to be pitching consistency, and if we can get some good outings from our starting rotation, I think the runs will come. We'll be able to score runs easily, but the pitching rotation needs to come through. That's going to make the bullpen better. It's going to make everybody else better. And then keeping Ozzie Guillen's news in the back burner and show that the Marlins are more than just that. That's it for this edition of Down the Right Field Line. Don't forget to comment on this video. Tell us your perspective. Tweet us. Like us on Facebook. And tell us what you think of all the latest news going on in Major League Baseball. As for now, we'll leave you with our random video of the week, which we like to call
the Major League Out. Later.